The jungle burned behind them, ash curling into the alien sky, black smoke twisting like serpents through the strange blue clouds. The air was thick with panic and blood. And still, he walked, a lone human, barefoot, shirtless, drenched in mud, sweat, and something darker, his breathing slow, deliberate, like he belonged here, like the fire, the death, the chaos behind him was nothing more than a warm-up. The alien commander, Kravith of the Shirkal Dominion, watched from behind a wall of armored soldiers, 12 feet tall, genetically enhanced, claws for hands, eyes like glassy voids. Even they took a step back. Because they saw him. The last survivor of Drop Team 7, the one they thought was broken, captured, forgotten. But somehow, impossibly, he had escaped. And now, he was walking toward the pit. Kravith didn't speak. He didn't need to. The silence said enough. A shadow moved across the tree line, low, massive, coiled with power. The predator was near, the one they had bred for war, a creature not born, but forged. 10 tons of muscle, 6 limbs, titanium bone lattice, acid breath, emotionless hunger. It had slaughtered thousands. Even their own soldiers feared it. And now, they were going to watch it rip a human apart. Just one. For sport. For dominance. For a message to any species that thought they could resist. The crowd gathered. Over 100 Jirkal officers hovered above the pit, watching from glass domes and anti-grav seats. Lenses zoomed, scanners activated. A few even chuckled in that cold, clicking way their species did, because what they saw below was impossible. The human didn't run, didn't shake, didn't scream. Not even a flinch when the predator dropped from the canopy, slamming into the earth with enough force to crack the bedrock. The impact trembled through the jungle. Leaves fell like rain. And yet, the human just stood there, breathing, still, unmoving, waiting. The predator hissed, 6 eyes blinking in patterns, analyzing its prey. And then, like lightning, it struck. No warning, no hesitation. A blur of claws and teeth and rage. But the human moved. Fast. Not with speed, with precision. A sidestep, just a fraction, just enough. The first claw missed. The second swiped air. The third blocked by a bare hand. Gasps erupted in the domes above. Even Kravith's mandibles twitched, because that shouldn't have been possible. But it was. Because this wasn't just any human. This was Cal Reeve. Born on Earth. Raised in its last war zone. Trained in the ruins of cities and deserts and orbital debris fields. He had killed to survive since he was 12. And when the UHF recruited him, they didn't send him to boot camp. They sent him to hell. The predator snarled, lunging again, claws whipped, fangs snapped, but Cal was already inside its reach. One elbow to the thorax, a rib cracked, then another, then crack. A knee drove into the undercarriage of its second jaw. It reeled back. Blood, dark and steaming, poured onto the jungle floor. The watching aliens leaned forward. Because now it wasn't a fight. It was a hunt. And Cal had just become the hunter. He didn't speak, didn't roar, didn't pose or boast. He just moved. Every strike had purpose. A wrist shattered, a joint popped, another eye gone. The predator screamed, louder than a hurricane. The jungle shook. But Cal didn't stop. He ripped the jaw guard off with a savage twist and punched into its throat. Once, twice, and then he tore something out. A mass of flesh, and tubing the size of a watermelon. The predator collapsed, twitching, bleeding, dying. The crowd above was silent. No cheers, no celebration, only horror. Kravith rose from his seat, his voice trembling, not from rage, but from fear. "What? What is he?" And then Cal looked up, through the smoke, the blood, the debris, right at Kravith, like he could see him, like he knew. No words, just eyes, human eyes, burning with something the Shirkal didn't understand. Not hatred, not vengeance. Something worse. Conviction. The kind that doesn't stop. The kind that doesn't care how many monsters you breed, how many empires you build, or how many worlds you burn. Because this wasn't about survival anymore. This was retribution. And Cal Reeve had just sent his message, loud and clear, one broken predator at a time. They called it the Breaker, a training program so brutal, so inhumane. It had been banned by every Terran oversight committee, and yet they still ran it, off the books, underground. For one reason, to build weapons out of men. Cal Reeve didn't volunteer. He was recruited the hard way. His last memory of Earth was ash falling from the sky, and his sister, dying in his arms after a Dominion orbital strike turned half of Detroit into glass. That was the day something snapped inside him. Not grief, not rage, something colder, sharper. The recruiters saw it. They knew what to look for. They didn't want soldiers. They wanted survivors. Killers, those who didn't break when their bones did. So they took him, stripped him down, shipped him off-world, and dropped him into the Breaker. 3 years, no daylight, steel walls, acid rain, synthetic food laced with enhancers, constant psychological warfare, combat drills that left people crippled. No beds, no medics, no mercy. Only the rule: win or die. Cal didn't just survive. He adapted. He learned to control every nerve, every instinct, every limit his body tried to scream at him. Pain? That was just data. Fear? A distraction. Emotion? A weakness to weaponize. They tried to shatter him. They failed. Because Cal Reeve wanted the pain. He welcomed it. It reminded him he was still human, and they weren't. By the end of the program, he wasn't the strongest. Or the fastest. He was the most dangerous. The Dominion knew none of that. To them, Cal was just another grunt. Until he butchered their apex predator with bare hands. Now they were scrambling. Kravith stormed into the war chamber, tendrils shaking. "The human is a tactical anomaly," one of the war clerics hissed, flicking its data spine. "He must be eliminated before the other species see this," another croaked. "No." Kravith's voice was cold. "We study him." The others paused. Kravith turned to the bioscreen where Cal stood alone in his cell, kneeling, head bowed, covered in blood. Not sleeping, not praying. Just still. Waiting, like a storm behind glass. He is the key to Earth's resistance. He is why the Terran frontier hasn't collapsed. If we understand him, we understand them. Silence. And then, an idea. The war clerics activated the next phase. Deep in the jungle outpost, the walls of Cal's cell began to hum. No doors, no warnings, just sudden silence. And then, gas. His lungs burned, eyes stung, limbs heavy. He didn't panic, didn't flinch. He just held his breath and slipped into the void. When he woke, the world was different. He wasn't in a cell. He was in a simulation, a fabricated Earth. Familiar, perfect, too perfect. They'd built it from his memories, scans, neural records. They thought it would trick him, make him soft, make him relive his worst days. It almost worked. Almost. Until he saw her, his sister, alive, smiling, walking toward him through a park that hadn't existed in a decade. That was the moment Cal snapped again, but not the way they'd hoped, not into grief, into clarity. Because he knew now. They didn't want to kill him. They wanted to break him, tear out the human spark, turn him into a tool, but they made one mistake. They reminded him what he was fighting for, and that made him unstoppable. In the control room, alarms screamed. The simulation collapsed in seconds. Cal had overridden the neural restraints from inside. Impossible. Unprecedented. And then, one of the scientists screamed. Cal Reeve stood behind them, naked, unarmed, unstoppable. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. One punch, skull shattered. He moved like a ghost, silent, efficient. 6 guards entered. None left. Blood coated the walls. The final war cleric tried to activate the failsafe. Cal picked up the chair she was in, with her still in it, and hurled it through the reinforced viewport. Glass shattered. Wind howled. He stood there, staring at the command center's surviving staff, breathing slow, deliberate, eyes burning. He didn't kill them. Not yet. Because fear is a better messenger than death. "Tell Kraveth," his voice like gravel over fire. "I'm coming." Then he vanished. Into the jungle. Kraveth watched the footage in horror. Silence hung in the war chamber like a noose. "He's not a soldier," one whispered. "He's a weapon." Another trembled. "No," Kraveth hissed. "He's something worse. A human that remembers why he fights." Somewhere in the trees, Cal knelt in the mud, breathing, listening. The jungle pulsed with alien life, but beneath it, something deeper stirred. Because the Dominion had one more weapon, one more beast, something even they feared, something ancient, sealed, but now unleashed. Because Kraveth was done playing games. He didn't want Cal Reeve dead anymore. He wanted him erased, so he sent it. A creature bred in forgotten labs, older than the war, smarter than the predators, deadlier than the Dominion itself. They didn't give it a name. They just gave it coordinates. Cal Reeve's last known location. He felt the change in the air. The birds stopped singing. The wind died. The jungle held its breath. He stood, cracked his knuckles, spat blood, and whispered to no one. Round 2. Then he walked toward the darkness, toward it. The trees began to bend, not from wind, from something else, something massive, moving underneath. The ground rippled, birds scattered, insects vanished. And Cal? Cal smiled, because he recognized that silence, the kind that came before the worst part of a storm. He didn't run. He rolled his shoulders, popped his neck, and kept walking, straight toward the source, toward it. In orbit, above the jungle moon, Kraveth leaned forward in the command deck of his dreadnought. His mandibles twitched. The chamber was packed. Generals, scientists, spectators, all watching, dozens of feeds, dozens of angles, all focused on one man and one thing. "Activate audio." Kraveth's voice was quiet. A technician obeyed. The low sound that followed wasn't natural, not mechanical, not animal. It was both. A deep, grinding resonance, like steel being crushed by bone. Then, a roar. Not loud, not sharp, just heavy, like gravity had screamed. One of the youngest officers stumbled back, shaking. "What is that thing?" he whispered. The answer came from one of the war clerics, almost reverent. "Designation, Subject Quothroin. Original class, Planetfall bioform. Forbidden, classified. It's not a beast. It's a war crime." Cal stopped at the edge of a clearing, and there it was. Not hiding, not lurking, waiting. 50 feet tall, 6 legs, 3 arms, 4 mouths, no eyes. The Dominion had designed it to listen, not see, to smell adrenaline, to taste brainwaves, to hunt fear. But Cal had none left. The creature turned toward him, not out of instinct, recognition, because it remembered. Him. They had fought once, long ago, and it had lost, barely. But now, it had grown, enhanced, twisted. It wanted this rematch. And Cal? He rolled his wrists and said one word. "Good." They charged, not like beasts, like weapons. The shockwave of impact flattened the clearing. Cal ducked under a tendril the width of a truck, grabbed it, twisted, and snapped it like a tree branch. The beast didn't scream. It didn't need to. It adapted. Another limb lashed out, coated in acidic mucus. It grazed Cal's shoulder. His flesh sizzled, but he didn't stop, didn't hesitate. He used the pain, let it fuel the next strike. A leap, a punch, full force, into the creature's thoracic plate. Crack, but not deep enough. It bucked. He flew, slammed into a boulder. Blood sprayed from his mouth. He didn't care. He stood, bones creaking, vision flickering, and smiled. "Come on, you ugly bastard!" The beast roared again, and charged. Up in orbit, Kraveth couldn't believe it. They're evenly matched. No one spoke, because what they were watching wasn't a fight. It was a message. The universe's deadliest bioweapon versus one human. No armor, no tech, just will. And still, he wasn't losing. Cal bled, his ribs cracked, his fingers broke. But his mind? Sharp, focused. He knew he couldn't outpower it. He had to outthink it. Every Dominion creature had a kill switch. A flaw. Genetic, mechanical, or behavioral. You just had to find it, exploit it, break it. He watched the way it moved, the way its left leg dragged, the scar on its underside, half healed, the faint shimmer near its back spine, coolant vent. There, target acquired. He baited it, let it think he was stumbling, bleeding out, let it charge again, mouths wide. And at the last second, he dived, rolled under, climbed up its chest like a demon, and punched his fingers into the coolant vent. It screamed, louder than anything alive should have been able to scream. Steam burst from its back. Metal plates cracked. Cal didn't stop. He grabbed one of its bone ridges and ripped it out, drove the jagged edge down into its neck, once, twice, 3 times. The beast staggered, fell, twitched, and died. Silence. Real silence. No wind, no breath. Just the soft hiss of cooling blood. Cal knelt beside it, shaking, exhausted, bleeding from a dozen wounds, but alive, and victorious again. In orbit. Kraveth stood frozen. Every officer in the chamber silent. One muttered, "He's not a man. He's not a soldier. He's death incarnate." Kraveth turned. "No, he's worse. He's hope." And now the galaxy had seen it, broadcast across systems, to allies, to enemies, to everyone. A single human had beaten 2 of the Dominion's apex weapons. Alone, down on the jungle moon. Cal finally stood, his body screaming, his breath shallow, but his spine still straight. He looked to the sky, at the distant glow of the Dominion dreadnoughts, and he smiled. "Now you're scared," he whispered to the stars. "Now you understand." He reached into the beast's carcass and pulled out one of its tracking cores, still glowing, still broadcasting. He stared at it, and then he crushed it in his bare hand. Glass, bone, light, gone. Then he turned and vanished into the jungle. But this time, he wasn't retreating. He was heading somewhere. He had a plan, a destination, because deep inside Dominion space, there was a facility, one they thought no human knew about, where they made these monsters, where they trained their elite, where the war truly began. And Cal was going to burn it to the ground, with his hands, with his mind, with everything he had left, one body at a time. The jungle behind him burned, ash in the sky, smoke in his lungs, but Cal Reeve didn't stop. Not for pain, not for blood, not for the fact that every bone in his body begged him to lie down and die. He kept walking, toward the launch pad he'd found, hidden beneath the collapsed satellite tower. One of the Dominion's stealth crafts was still docked. He knew the codes, learned them back during the first escape. He'd left a message for the survivors of his unit, if any were still alive. 3 words etched in blood. Go to war. The craft launched in silence, camouflage engaged, signal masked, destination locked. The coordinates had been burned into his skull for years. They called it the Heart, not a planet, a fortress, floating above a dying star, built into the carcass of a shattered moon. The Dominion's sacred foundry, where they created monsters, warriors, and nightmares. No prisoner had ever escaped from it. No human had ever been there. Until now. He docked at the underbelly port, breached the hull with scavenged gear and raw strength. No alarms yet. He moved through the maintenance shafts like a ghost, bleeding, breathing, burning. Every step, a vow. He passed cloning pods, test chambers, archives of things that had no right to exist. He didn't flinch. He kept going until he found it. The core chamber, a cathedral of war. Dozens of Dominion generals stood on raised platforms. Scientists, engineers, priests, and in the center, Kraveth, waiting, smiling. "You survived longer than I expected," the creature said, voice dripping with false calm. Cal stepped forward, limping, cracked ribs grinding. "No," he rasped. "I just haven't died yet." Kraveth gestured. The walls shifted. 4 Dominion elites stepped forward, each one bigger than Cal, each one augmented, gleaming blades, reinforced limbs, bioarmor laced with intelligence. They surrounded him. No words, just the silent click of weapons locking into place. Cal didn't raise his fists. He didn't need to. The room tensed, and he exploded. First strike, elbow to the throat of the closest elite, shattered its windpipe. Second, a spinning knee shoved the broken body into the next one. Third, he caught a blade meant for his spine, twisted it, and drove it into the attacker's eye. Fourth, slipped beneath a punch, used his own shoulder as a fulcrum, dislocated the elite's arm, and crushed its skull on the ground. 4 seconds. 4 kills. Silence. Kraveth didn't move, but something changed in his eyes. A flicker of fear. Real. Raw. Human. Cal didn't speak. He walked straight toward him, but Kraveth raised a hand. "Stop!" Cal paused. Something in the air shifted. A tremor. Low. Almost familiar. "You think this is over?" Kraveth hissed. "You think killing me ends the war?" "No." Cal's voice was calm, dead calm. "I think breaking you sends a message." Kraveth lunged. Fast. Faster than any Dominion Cal had faced. But Cal anticipated it, caught one arm, took the strike to his jaw, spun, countered. They crashed into the central console. Sparks rained down. Kraveth howled, mandibles slashing, acid blood spraying. Cal tanked it, let it burn, grabbed both of Kraveth's upper limbs, and pulled. Tendons snapped, joints buckled. Kraveth screamed. Cal headbutted him. Again. Again. Until bone cracked. Until the warlord collapsed. Cal stood over him, breathing hard, face a mask of blood and ash. And he remembered his sister's face. The smoke over Detroit, the breaker, the predator in the jungle, all of it. He looked down at Kraveth. "You built monsters." He grabbed one of the warlord's broken limbs. "But you forgot how dangerous a man can be," and snapped it. Kraveth choked, then laughed. "You'll die here, with the rest of them." Cal looked around. The facility rumbling now. Fire in the vents. Sirens blaring. And he smiled. "That's the plan." He dragged Kraveth to the command throne, threw him into it, smashed the override console, then pulled out the memory drive from the beast he killed in the jungle, plugged it in, broadcasting unlocked, to everyone, every feed, every planet, every Dominion-controlled colony, a live stream of this, Cal Reeve, bloodied, burned, standing atop the Dominion's sacred fortress, holding their leader hostage. He looked into the camera and said, "My name is Cal Reeve. I was forged in your fires, beaten in your prisons, hunted by your monsters. And I'm still here." He stepped back. The auto-destruct began to count down. "I'm not the only one." He pointed to the screen, to the image of Earth, still standing, fighting, surviving. "You thought we were weak. You were wrong." He turned and walked away, leaving Kraveth screaming in a throne of fire. 3 minutes later, the heart exploded, a silent blaze in the void, the Dominion's core, gone. But Cal wasn't dead. Not yet. He'd made it to the evac pod. Barely. Half-conscious. Burned. Broken. But alive. Because death wasn't the mission. The message was. He landed 3 days later on a backwater rebel moon, collapsed in front of their command post, and when the medics tried to lift him, he grabbed one by the collar, pulled him close, and whispered, "Tell Earth, I'm coming home." They called him a ghost, a myth, a story told to scare the Dominion. But Cal Reeve, he wasn't a story. He was a warning. To every enemy who thought humans would roll over, to every empire that forgot how hard we fight when we've lost everything, to every monster bred to kill us. He was the one man who killed back, with nothing but his bare hands,